Welcome everyone. This is Arada. She is a Nigerian-born woman, and she has made her name as a community resource and environmental activist. Based in the Detroit area, she helps organizations and people write grants, run social media, build better community strategies, transition to sustainable practices, and help brand businesses. She has done extensive work with youth, so that's why we asked her here today, including but not limited to building several gardens in the Detroit public schools, creating Zen rooms as safe environments for students, and serving with EcoWorks to educate students about the environment from pollution to sustainability. She is currently the founder of the Chipbag Project, a sustainable initiative focused on bringing together environmental justice and social justice by turning foil-lined products into sleeping bags to give to the homeless. So current stats on that, they have collected 2.5 million pounds of chip bags. They have constructed 120 sleeping bags and given out 80 of those sleeping bags so far. So her work with the TCBP has been featured in 29 countries since its start in December of 2020. And it just goes to show how small projects can reach around the world. So with that, I'm going to hand it over. So
yay, woof. Every time somebody reads my bio, I'm always like, ugh, Lord, I do things. Cool. So what up though, everybody? My name is Harada, and my title currently is Detroit Organizer for Michigan Environmental Justice Coalition. But also, as she was saying, I am also the founder of the Chipbag Project, and I'll talk to you all more about that. The grounding question for when I do presentations or when I do anything, I like to have something that we're talking about or we're thinking about as we go through it. And our guiding and central question for today will be, what does advocacy and what does it mean to advocate for community? And then, so this is supposed to be interactive. I know I can't see y'all. But I do really want this to be as interactive as possible. Can you guys click when it's a shared screen or no? Or just me? I just want to make sure.
no, that's just you.
Do I have access to the chat room?
Yeah, you should. And you should also have access to the Q&A to see if anyone puts in any questions.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So what we have here is just like a question. I just want to know from you all, what does it mean to be an organizer? So I put the link in the chat if people can just jump on the jam board just for a couple of minutes and then tell me what you think it means to be an organizer. You can use sticky notes if you want to as well. I do need to see one to feel as if I'm not talking to myself. So yeah.
Can you change the permissions on the Jamboard?
Yes, I can. I thought I did that. Let me. Yes. Oh, I see now. There you go. Awesome. So we'll just take about, let's say, 2 minutes. So it's 12. Well, over here where I'm at, it's 12:03 because I'm not in Michigan. So it's 1:03 over you. Say 1:05. We can check back on this. I'm putting the link back in the chat again for people who don't see it. Oh, sorry. There you go. I just noticed I had it on host and panelist and not everyone. Okay. Because of that little wait, I'll just give you all one more minute. No problem. Cool. And there are no wrong answers. Feel free to say, I don't know. I don't know is a right answer. So put that away. You can use sticky notes on the left-hand side and just click on sticky note and you can pick colors and stuff. Okay, I see working to plan events for community. An organizer is someone who works together with people in a manner that enables good change. I love that. Maria put in the chat, someone who gets people to do things. Okay. Okay, we're just gonna take probably 30 more seconds. Okay. An organizer to me is someone that creates a project and manages the people and resources to make that happen. And then, yeah, working to plan events for a community. I love that. So just so you can keep this moving, back to our presentation. We'll go through those answers a little bit more in depthly at the end of this. I just wanted to get your thoughts before we start. So what I do, because I also used to be a teacher and I taught over Zoom, agreements for today is to be as present as you need to be. Feel free to interrupt and ask questions. I didn't know how the settings would be, so like I can't see your faces, so it doesn't matter if you have your cameras on or off. Be respectful, being open-minded, and ask questions. It's okay to not know. So even if like you have a question, you're just curious about that, feel free to just put it in the Q&A box and I will answer that as much as possible. Next slide. Such a weird thing trying to like work slide function. Okay, cool. So myself, I already, you all pretty much got a nice introduction of me, but a couple of things. I reside in Detroit, and that is in Anishinaabe territory. And also I am a national service member. I was a national service member for about 4 years. I was also Southeastern's national service member president. I'm a safe space creator, so turning detention rooms into Zen rooms in DPSCD for students who would have otherwise been expelled from school, get to go into the Zen room. Maybe we have punching bags in there. We also have like a yoga studio in there. We have painting for students. So it's an alternative to sending a kid home for a couple of days. They get to get that frustration out. I'm also the organizer for MEJC, and I advocate for Detroit's right to healthy communities. And I can explain what that means. So what is MEJC, where I work for? MEJC is Michigan Environmental Justice Coalition, and we advocate for residents in underserved and underrepresented communities in the legislative landscape. That's a really fancy way of saying we write legislature, we work with representative officials to pass laws that work in service of underserved and underrepresented communities. So because we understand that literacy rates, education imbalances and inadequacies, people are not able to advocate for themselves in political landscape. So that's what we're there for as residents, to do that. If you want to go on MEJC's website, we do have multiple campaigns that you can see. Some of our notable ones are Work For Me DTE campaign, which was a campaign that we've been doing over the last 3 years to get DTE to stop rate hikes and also for them to start to work on community solar. And then we're also part of an initiative called Mejc, which is a roundtable of about 20 plus organizations around the city, around Michigan, that advocate for everything from, we have transit organizations in there. We also have organizations that are focusing on birthing and making sure that people who are going to give birth have proper adequate service. I am the co-chair for one of the working groups that we have in Mejc, and I do our campaigns, meaning I pretty much get to work with over 20 organizations on all the advocacy they're doing around Michigan and making sure they have a streamlined process of doing that. I helped them come up with a plan. I'm also building a national database right now that will be able to be accessed from your smartphone. So you have an app where you can start to look at what live advocacy campaigns are happening around Michigan and how you can be involved with that. I was also, and MJC was part of the River Protection Ordinance last year, where we passed with the Detroit City Council unanimously an ordinance that will stop bulk waste companies from polluting the river. Some other things that we do in MEJC is how the very, very specific thing about MEJC is how we talk about climate change. I think that a lot of organizations have this message that, oh yeah, we need to stop climate change. We need to, what we have discovered is like climate change, as we know, is a snowball down a hill. It's happening. I don't think we can stop it, but how do we mitigate what's happening? And that's what MEJC does. We advocate for infrastructure to happen, and we try to make sure we slow down that snowball as much as possible so that the people underneath the hill don't get collapsed by it. So making sure that Detroiters have access to water services if something happens, making sure that they have good air to breathe in, and also making sure we have access to food and things like that. So advocacy, not prevention, because we know it's going to happen. Some other things with MEJC, we really have spent the last couple of years making sure that we are speaking as residents of the city of Detroit for residents of the city of Detroit, and as residents of Michigan for residents of Michigan. So this is everybody that's on our team. We have an 8-person team, are all residents of Michigan. They all advocate for Michigan, and we do work on the ground here. I've been doing advocacy work for the last, I think combined, our team has been doing advocacy for the last 45 years. So it's like a whole bunch of heavy hitters and a really, really interesting place to advocate from. Over the last, let me say, I've been doing allowing people and allowing people to be able to have advocacy as a resident. When it floods, I have access to calling the city council and saying, hey, yo, it flooded in my basement. That for me makes me feel really secure as a resident. And then also the people in my neighborhood, they come to me like, hey, Eradajere, did you know that it's flooded? I'm like, yeah, my basement is flooded too. Are you gonna call city council? I'm like, I'm already on the phone with them right now. Every time anything happens in my city, I'm usually getting a call for it. And that is what an organizer does. We get a call and we do something. It's not just, sometimes some people in positions are able to just coast in life and just, I have a job, I'm doing this job, and that's pretty much all I have to do. As an organizer, you are on a beck and call of your community. So if my community calls me and it's like, hey, Eradajere, we need food, we need this, we need that, I answer. I think over the last 2 months, we created for the Chipbag Project, and also with MEJC, the Chipbag Project created over 300 warm kits to pass out to people that were sleeping outside. And with MEJC, we created 85 flood kits to pass out to residents in their homes who were affected by all the floods that happened, and also with the snow and everything melting too as well. So advocacy looks like different things in different places. It can look like you go into a legislative branch and talking to representative officials and telling them, hey, this is what we want to see. It can also look like going to your neighborhoods and knocking on people's doors and asking them, what can I do to help you? Can I help you mow that lawn really quickly? Because I know if I mow the lawn for you, we can get other things going. Can I help you? I don't really believe in mowing lawns, but I thought that was a good example. But just things like that. Another thing that I always tell young people to be able to tap into this movement has been really, really difficult. I know when I started to become an organizer at about 19, 20, I felt like I was coming into a game that was really guarded by a whole bunch of old people who had all these ideas of what advocacy looked like. I'm telling them, hey, we need to get like social media together. We're our content creators. And they're telling me like, what do you mean? We don't need a social media. We don't. And what happened with COVID is people saw that boots on the ground does not only mean people are knocking on doors. It also means social media advocacy is a really important arm right now. So that's where a lot of young people have been able to tap into the movement, is by, getting on social media, using your hashtags, making videos, sharing information with your friends and your family. And also by having databases and having organizations like MEJC that have a youth council that you can be part of and advocate for your communities that way. So I'm going to stop talking because I've been talking for 15 minutes and hearing my voice sometimes is deafening. But before I do that, I'm going to just give you guys just a couple of information about our national database that we're creating. So as I was saying in the beginning, we do a lot of advocacy work. Oh, cool. We do a lot of advocacy work here at MEJC, but something that we are really interested in is making sure that anybody is able to tap into our movement. Anybody is able to look online and see what's happening so that all the transparency is out there for people. And it also allows it for younger people or people who have never been part of movement work before to feel as if they can just kind of hop right in and have all the tools they need. So in creating this national database, which I should have done by this year, like I was saying before, you'll be able to go on the app, be able to go on your cell phone and see what live advocacy is happening within Michigan at any given time. So maybe that's a protest that's happening downtown for water justice, or maybe it's something happening in Upper Michigan or something that's happening in the Lower Peninsula. Like, you will be able to see that in real time and also have contact information for people you can call and things like that. We also just launched at MEJC our Youth Climate Council. It isn't a paid opportunity for young people in the Southeastern Michigan area. I'm also like expanding it outside of Southeastern Michigan if I'm like one or two people. That's why I wanted to share it with you all if anybody was interested. This is a way we're going to be training young people to be organizers, but also training you to be elected officials. What we believe at MEJC is that young people should not be patronized when it comes to advocating for your future. So I'm not going to be asking you to go get a whole bunch of 18 plus people to vote when you don't have the power to vote, but we're going to sit there and train you. So when you do become 18, you can run to be an elected official and start to change laws in your neighborhood. I've had the pleasure of working with the youngest state rep of Michigan. He was 19 and he got on his city board when he was 16 years old, and because of advocacy training that he got. So if you all are interested in that, make sure you tap into our Youth Climate Council. It's also on the Michigan EJ website. I'm going to read some of these questions and try to answer them as much as possible. Okay. How do I break through the old people and make connections with them and through them? The best way, I'm going to answer that live. Okay. The best way to honestly do that is by asking them their knowledge. This is going to sound really funny, but older individuals, especially older individuals who have been doing this work a long time, they do have knowledge and they want to feel as if they are still relevant to the movement. And the best way to be able to make connections with them is just to simply ask a question. Hey, how did you get into this movement work? That's the first question I ask any person that I'm meeting. How did you get into movement work? What have you seen that that made you excited? What is one time that you just like, oh my God, I need to see something different? Like, asking questions like that about their experience allows you to now say, oh, wow, what do you think I can do better coming into this space? Or what would you like to have been known at 16 when you were coming into this space? Or, oh my God, I'm so happy you said that. I was just talking to my friend, blah, 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 blase spill about this thing. And now you just have a connection. Yeah. So again, the best way to do so, make sure that you are having that bridge to first ask a question about their experience. So simply, how did you get into this work? How did you get into advocacy? What brought you here? Anything like that to break the ice so that first you are tapping into the information that this person has first to give to you. I hope that answered your question. If it didn't, feel free to ask it again and I will try my best. How would you recommend spreading awareness of climate justice on social media from such a small podium? If there's any action besides patience that will make a virtual voice more heard? That's a great question. I do not believe in anything. There's no such thing as a small podium. So the Chipbag Project started. I had no Instagram for it. I posted it on my Facebook. And when I posted it on my Facebook, one person on my Facebook sent it to another person, and then Fox News called me. There is no such thing as a small podium. There's only the thing that you have to have is the right message. So what is your messaging that you're saying on social media? If you're going on and you're spewing, oh yes, I need you all to climate justice, what does that mean? Like, what are you actually asking people to do? We see on social media all the time that the best way to get people's attention, post a 10-second video. What is climate advocacy? What does it mean to be a climate justice warrior? Just to let you know, though, Instagram does not like the word climate justice. Instagram does not like the word justice whatsoever. So you will get shadow banned, just to give you a little heads up on that. So how do I go about it? I don't ever use the word justice. I don't ever use the word climate. I don't use the word environment. I don't use the word advocate. I'm just like, hey, y'all. So I've noticed that every year it gets colder, but it's not really snowing anymore. Remember when we had like 10 snow days in a row? We haven't had 10 snow days in a row in forever. If you feel that way, drop a comment about the last 10-day snow day you had. Another way that I have been able to spread awareness on, because I only have, and I say only because I only have 2,000 followers on my Instagram, but I made a reel talking about why Detroit floods, and it got to 30,000 people. I had 30,000 views and likes on the video. And it got featured in almost every news site as soon as I posted it, because people were like, I've never heard of that. I never knew that's why Detroit flooded. But it was an information about sustainability, about infrastructure, without using any of those words. I broke it down to something that anybody could grab onto and feel advocacy over. So I hope I answered that. I hope that I answered that. Because that was a lot. Is there anything else besides patience? Patience is a virtue. What do you mean? There is nothing else besides patience. You are doing advocacy work. You are trying to get people to care. That is nothing but patience and a lot of banging your head, but patience. I don't know, like, you need that is really, really important. If you're going to go into advocacy, whether that's social media advocacy, whether that's on the boots on the ground advocacy, patience is your number one virtue. If you don't have patience to fail, you will never have patience to win. Okay, so last question from Sam. How do I interact with people who don't want to listen to young people? Be loud, be louder, be more loud, and also ask them a question. That, like I was saying in the beginning, what I have noticed, all the people who support me are all over 40. All the, like, my main supporters, my main cheerleaders, the people who are at every single meeting that I have are all over 40. And the people who have been doing advocacy work for 20 plus years. And the one question they always say shocks them is the fact that I asked them how they got there. And not just like, oh, how did you start? How you get here, Ms. Gunner? But like, what did you see as a young person, or what did you see in your 20s that made you say yes to poverty? Because that's what sometimes comes with activism. But what made you say yes to this lifestyle? What made you say yes to community like this, where you were saying to yourself, I'm going to spend the rest of my life advocating for other people? I ask questions like that because a lot of the times older individuals feel as if younger people do not value the information and the road they have already walked. They feel as if they're being pushed out of the movement, even though they were valuable parts of that. So a great way to make sure that people are interacting with you is by asking them simple questions to make them buy into what you're saying. And then when they're talking to you, listen. Don't listen to respond. Don't listen to formulate thoughts in your mind. Don't listen to do anything. Just listen to simply listen. And they say thank you. And then they ask you a question, add something. But the next time you see them, then you already have an icebreaker. And also, again, patience. And if they don't listen, start your own thing. My little sister, she is 18 now. When she first started advocacy, she was advocating with NAACP and Black Lives Matter. She did not feel as if they had a space where they were advocating for Black trans people who were being murdered at the time and still being murdered. So she created her own platform. She was screaming and yelling and saying, hey, I want to do a protest for Breonna Taylor. I want to do a protest for Ayanna Stanley Jones. And she was literally screaming to everybody around her and nobody was listening. So what did she do? She started her own organization, Black Lives Matter in all capacities. And because of that, she was able to organize 15 protests over the last 2 years as a 17-year-old, while still going to school full time, while still doing everything she had to do, because older people were not listening. So as a young person, she talked to her other young people and they started their own platform. So to round that up, things to say, if people are not listening to you, make sure, see if it's the questions that you're asking them. Ask better questions or ask more connective questions to get to know them better. And if they're still not listening, leave. Start your own thing. There is nothing wrong with starting your own thing. There is nothing wrong with understanding there is not a platform for you in a space that you are currently. There is 1,000,001 bread making companies in America. When you go to Kroger, you see 17 brands. Start your own organization if you don't see one that advocates for you in the way that you see fit. But before you do so, make sure you have had the conversations to get that to happen first. So cool. Next question. Oh, this is a good one. What would you like to see from privileged white people who want to help but not act with a white savior complex? Okay, this question is like hella loaded, and I'm telling you why. As a Black person, it is not my place to tell you what you need to do or what I want to see. I just want to, you have space, you have privilege. How do you want to show up? How do you want to advocate for people? What do you think that you want to see in the world? That is what I see as, I don't like to speak for Black people, but as an advocate, that's all. Use your privilege, use your platform. You have privilege, understanding that you have that privilege, checking it when you need to check it. When you see other people in the room that don't have that privilege, check yours so they can shine. If you see your friends are organizing a protest and you're like, okay, how can I use my privilege? What some of my friends did, where they started to become allies in our protests. So every time we would do something, because I was the creative director for my sister's organization, instead of saying, oh, it's me that organized this protest, my friend Allie would literally come up and she would be like, I'm the person who advocated for this. I'm the person who organized this protest. So if you want to see a direct thing to do, that is a direct thing to do. But it's 2022. I'm saying, like, you can go online and really figure that out. And I don't mean to be crass, but I think that is the seriousness of the conversation, is you can figure that out. I think as a person with privilege, you know how to check your privilege, you know where your privilege helps people, and you should know how to elevate other people in that position. But that is how I will answer that. And next question, please keep asking questions. We have time. I have a little bit more to talk about, but not for real. What do you mean by advocating? Is that mostly social media campaigns and protesting, or the other aspects? Oh, great question. Advocating for me personally means speaking up for somebody who doesn't have the platform to, or it also means amplifying somebody else's voice who's already speaking up. So advocating is a whole bunch of different things. It could mean a social media platform campaign, or it could be protesting, or it could be starting something that I did. And I'll go back to the beginning of this. So this picture in this billboard was part of an advocacy that I did. I did a billboard art show a year ago. It was an environmental justice art show, and I asked a bunch of different artists around the city, give me your best art that speaks about what is happening currently in the environmental landscape in Detroit. And this was one of the most striking one by Liz Kennedy. It says air pollution kills more than 650 Detroiters a year. That is a fact. This is what advocacy looks like. This billboard was all over Detroit for a full month in different places all around the city. So that is a form of advocacy. It's saying to Detroiters, yes, we see what's happening to you, and we're going to make sure we're calling it out to attention. So advocacy could look like speaking up for somebody. It could look like a social media campaign. It could look like protesting, but it could look like a billboard. It could also look like wearing a t-shirt. It looks like standing up for somebody. If you see somebody saying something or doing something that you feel is inappropriate or is disparaging, that's what advocacy is. It's speaking up for the people who are not there. If you're around all your friends and you hear one of your friends say something that's racially insensitive or bigotry, you say, hey, don't say that. Or why would you think that it's okay? You check them. That's another form of advocacy, because you're advocating for people who cannot be there to check that person or to have that conversation with that person. So advocacy, again, is whenever you are speaking up for somebody or amplifying somebody else's voice and struggles. Any other questions? Please ask as many questions as possible. Cool. So a little more too about just advocacy and what I do. Over the last 5 years, I've been really, really intentional about the kind of advocacy that I show forward into the world. I am a person who speaks to people really intentionally, and I always tell people I do not plan on being an organizer for longer than 2 years. My job, they got my 1 year notice of me quitting in December, because I would have been here for 2 years. I do not believe that you should make a career out of a problem. I don't believe that for me doesn't make any sense. And especially if I stay there longer, then my paycheck is dependent on that. I'm saying that to say, as you are advocating, as you are organizing, as you want to speak up for your community, also think about what are the next steps to your advocacy. How do you grow your advocacy? How do you do more? How do you step it up? How do you grow that? If you have a niche where you're like, oh my God, I'm a great social media campaigner, I'm amazing at it. People always my TikToks have a million views, whatever the case might be. You ask yourself next year, what can I do more? How do I turn that 1 million views into 1 million votes? How do I turn 1 million views into $1 million? So with the Chipbag Project, one of the things that we're working on this year is hiring people. When I started the Chipbag Project, it was supposed to be a 3-month project because I do something for my birthday every year for advocacy. It was supposed to be 3 months, 60,000 chip bags, 60 sleeping bags, call it a day. We're now a year into it, 2.5 million pounds. And when I say pounds, I really mean pounds. If you've ever held a potato chip bag in your hand, they don't weigh anything. So just imagine what 2.5 million looks like. And because we have that, and because we have that from industry and not individuals, we collected about, probably a little bit off, but I think we collected about 800,000 from individuals over the last year, individual chip bags, but we collected 2 million from industry in 3 months from 2 companies. So advocacy looks different as we're growing it within the Chipbag Project. That was something that we saw was so jarring to us. And I was like, oh my God, I can't stop this. Well, also I couldn't stop because when I wanted to stop, I had 2 million pounds in my warehouse. And I'm like, Lord, what am I going to do with 2 million pounds? I can't throw it away. So we decided to make this a company. We want to start hiring people who are underserved and who are displaced and nomadic. We want to start hiring people who normally would not get an opportunity to work at this job because they've been working at an oil plant for their whole life, and their grandpa worked at an oil plant. But we're a green industry right now. As a Chipbag Project, we literally create zero waste. We're in a solar power building. We use zero electricity. We throw zero things out, and we use every single thing. But we also work with organizations who are hiring people who are displaced to be able to start hiring them. So we can say to you, yes, we want to give you a sleeping bag for right now, but with this sleeping bag, here's a job if you want it. With this job, here is financial stability. Here is a financial coach if you want it. Here is housing if you want it. Here are shares in this company if you want it. So with this advocacy, I could have just stopped it. Okay, I got to 60 sleeping bags, but I asked myself, do I want to stop this or can we do more? How do you grow your advocacy? So as young people, as you're sitting here, you're asking yourself, oh my God, I'm young. How do I tap into this movement? What do I do? How do I get excited about advocacy? Those are the ways to do so. I'm literally taking chip bags that people throw away every single day, and I'm making it to something usable for other people. In my day job, every day, I get to go to the city council meetings and yell at them because they deserve to be yelled at, and yell for advocacy for people who live in Detroit, because that matters. And those things are important, and those people are important. So, when somebody says 55 minutes on Zoom, you never know it's 55 minutes on Zoom. You're like, oh God, 55 minutes. Let me see. So it's one more thing that I wanted to do this. Yeah. I wanted you all to answer the question again about what is an organizer and who is organizer. Wait, sorry, didn't mean to do. Yep, I did. So before, in the beginning, you all were saying, I think an organizer is someone who works together with people in a manner that establishes good change. Some of you also said someone who gets people to do things. An organizer has to bring together a large number of details and responsibilities to make a unified or a bigger entity run. What does this one say? Hold on. Cool. Someone who makes sure everything runs smoothly. I think an working on events working to plan events for a community. So since we just had a conversation, I told you all what I do. That is my title. I am an organizer. I go by organizer by trade. From the conversation that we're able to have an explanation of different kind of advocacy and organizing. So like I was saying, and just to go back through all the different kind of organizing I've done, organizing in schools to help them create Zen rooms. That is a form of organizing, because my students were literally telling me, Miss Eradajere, I don't want to get sent home because I have no food at home. I'm like, I'm mad because my mom, they told me all of these things. So I was like, okay, what can I do as your teacher to make this better? So I raised money. I organized a bunch of my friends who are artists and painters, and I told them to come to my school, and they created a Zen room for me. Same thing with Chipbag Project, making sure that we're organizing for people who have been left behind historically and been disposed of, or people are trying to push out. How do we organize and advocate for them to have a sustainable future? So our mission is not about giving people sleeping bags, because that's one thing, but we want to make sure that as we give you this sleeping bag, you never ever have to use it, because we're giving you so much other things. So that's another form of organizing. Organizing with city council members to make sure we're passing protests and make sure we're passing ordinances and laws and things like that. That's another form of organizing. So with all those different kinds of organizing, especially environmental organizing, I want to ask you guys the question again. What does it mean? I've said the word organize a million times, but what does it mean to be an organizer? And I will put the link should be in the chat, but I will put it again in the chat. And also feel free to like unmute yourself to ask questions, raise hands or whatever. Please feel free. And we'll take about 3 minutes to do so. Okay, we're gonna just take like maybe 30 more seconds if anybody wants to throw some last minute things in there. And also the Q&A portion of this is still open. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat. I will be answering those questions. I have a couple more to answer. So please make sure you're dropping that and utilizing that Q&A function. Yes, I love seeing that. I love seeing these questions. Okay, so while people are still sending me some questions, let's take 30 more seconds to kind of round out those thoughts. What is an organizer? Put that in there, and then we'll answer some questions and keep it moving. Okay, cool. Okay, so what is an organizer? Please, even if I'm talking, still free to, if you're typing, type away. What is an organizer? At the end of this presentation, you're saying to me now, someone who can recognize a problem in their community and work to solve it. Yes, period. Someone who solves problems in their community, someone who speaks for people that are underserved and do not have a problem and don't have a platform to solve those problems. Those who use their advantages and resources that have to solve issues and make things happen, even if others tell them it's not possible. You know, organizers, we make the impossible possible every single day, honestly. Okay, so I really love those answers. I love how insightful they are now. I love the fact that they did change. As we saw in the beginning, a lot of people were like, I think maybe this is this, maybe an organizer is the person who puts the things together. But I think we're starting to see that organizer and advocate kind of go hand in hand. To advocate for somebody, you have to organize around a certain topic. If you don't have an issue to organize around, how can you advocate for anybody? So to answer these questions, how do you find inspiration for protests and projects? Oh, okay. It's gonna sound weird, but it's an easy one. There's oppression all around me. That is literally my inspiration, is the oppression that I feel and the things that I don't see. I think I am a person that does not believe in reinventing the wheel. I love to collaborate with people. So if I see somebody else is doing something, I'll add on to that. But most of the time when I go out places, I'm like, dang, this would be really dope if we had this. This would be really dope. I would love to see this on this. And so I do a lot of like my curation and organizing around things like that. What don't I see in the world, and what do I need to see in the world? So those are the two questions that I ask myself to find inspiration. Like, what don't I see and what do I need to see? Because those are two different things. Like, I might not see any cars right now, which is fine by me, but I want to see more public transit. So that's like a way to think about how my brain works like that. I also find inspiration from the people around me. People come to me with, I'm surrounded by creatives. All my friends are creatives. When I say creatives, I have painters, video, people who shoot movies, people who do interpretive dances, people who hair, like everything. My entire circle is all creative. So inspiration is, and I live in the blackest city in America with some of the worst problems in America. Problems and struggle breeds inspiration. So when you're struggling and when you're seeing suffering, inspiration does come. That's from what I've noticed. I also like lived in a third world country, and I think, that was also true for there too. When I was there, I always had ideas of things. I'm like, oh my God, I don't see this. I would love to see this. I don't see this. I would love to see this. So when you live in places that don't have a lot, you're always thinking about things that you want to use to fill that space up. How do I make my actions? How do I make sure my actions I start in my community don't end when I go to college and leave? Ooh, great question. That's actually one of the things that my little sister is going through. And this is what I told her. If you start off your organization understanding that the organization is not you and it's the community, when you leave, it should still be there. If you leave the entire organization on you, so let's say you are the only person that knows everything to run this organization. You are the only person that is excited about it. You are the only person that has any tie to it. You are the only person that knows all the people. You are the connector. If you are the glue that holds this organization together, it will. So you have to make sure that you share that. You have to make sure that there are other people who can also hold on to without you. Transparency with the chip bag. Also, yeah, with me leaving my job, when I leave my job, the school that I started with my job lives on without me, because there's a step-by-step process on how the school is created, how to do recruitment, how to write the agenda, how to, what organizations were reached out to, what do the communications look like? I type everything out step by step by step, and I have a conversation with another person outside of myself, so that if anything happens to me, anything, the world is a strange place, this still leaves on. So that's what I would say, like with your actions, you have to make sure that you are building this organization around a community and not around yourself. So make sure a lot of community members have their hand in it. That's the only way you can make sure it doesn't die. And also another thing too, it is okay for things to die. That is something that I am trying to stress to people. Just because you start something and it's really great doesn't mean you have to be there forever. if it needs to be there forever, that's not sustainable, personally. If something cannot run without you being there, it's not sustainable. So does it need to exist? So ask yourself that question. Whoever asked that question, does it need to exist if it cannot live without me? Where are you currently finding hope? Oh, great question. Wow, you guys have such great questions. Where am I currently finding hope? I'm going to sit with that for a couple of seconds, if you don't mind. This is in person. This one won't be as weird, but since I'm like literally looking at myself, I think for myself, I am finding hope in the possibility. I'm finding hope in the possibility, and possibility is young people, you all. Like, when I'm around young people and having conversation, I have my best conversations about the future with young people, with people who are under the age of 25. I'm like, God, yes. Because now I'm no longer there. I'm like, Lord, I am no longer under 25. I have passed that threshold. I am considered a seasoned individual. And I talk to y'all and I'm just like, oh my God, what? This is what you're thinking about? When I have conversations with my little sister, she gives me a lot of hope. She is, I wish y'all could meet her, but she's an amazing individual, like amazing individual. And I'm forever grateful to know her and just to even like share space with her. But she is one of my hopes right now, and where I'm gathering a lot of my joy, my happiness, and like this vigor to keep going is by seeing the amount of work that she's doing, in direct response to the work that I have done. So that for me is just like, wow, yeah, young people, y'all are like, whew, doing it. And I'm just over here, like, I'm tired. I'm ready to pass the baton to somebody, anybody who wants it. You. Okay, that was kind of weird. Does anybody else have any other questions before I start to round out my thoughts and things? Please free to ask any of those last minute questions. Let me see, what is he? Okay, Q&A time. So one of the things that I was also I talked about earlier that I just want to make sure I touch on again is MEJC right now we did just launch our Youth Climate Council. It is a full year position. We meet twice a month for about 2 hours every time we meet. And we have one in-person community service people who are able to come. It is a great way for young people to be able to learn about advocacy firsthand. And also you get paid to do so. I personally, because like, I just don't believe in asking young people to do stuff for free. That's just like super weird with me. I feel like y'all got bills. Like I had bills when I was 16. They weren't bills like I have now, but they were different kind of bills. So, you need to have a little bit of coin in your pocket. Capitalism is a thing that happens in America. So definitely want to make sure you all are tapping into the Youth Climate Council. If you are interested in advocacy, if you're interested in anything like that, in learning how to do that properly, please make sure you tap into the Youth Council. I will be running that full year. This is my third Youth Council I've created. And the last two of them, one of them is going to be running for office in the next year, and then 2 of them work for really high up environmental organizations, and one of them got my old job because I was like, oh my God, I get to give my job to somebody else that's younger than me. God, yes, hallelujah. If anybody wants my job, when you get to be over, you have to be over 21 just because of certain things that we do, I'm down to pass the baton. If you do want to stay in touch with me for any reason whatsoever, if you have questions, if you're like, oh my God, Erada, you said something that was like in my brain and I want to ask more clarifying questions, my email is Erada, ERADA at michiganej.org. If you go to michiganej.org, you will see all our contact information on there. You can also follow us at We Are MEJC on socials. I should also put, you can follow the Chipbag Project if you want on everything, just like that, Chipbag Project. Yeah, I don't know if anybody has any questions. I am done.